people had these square bumper stickers that had this really pretty W. It just said W, and underneath it said the president.
I have one now in my office,
I bet you do.
and it says F, the president.
The president. Yeah. That was an iteration that came. And I wish I'd thought of that.
Good day, everyone. This is The Real Truth with Tommy Spina. I am Tommy Spina, and I appreciate you listening and hope you enjoy the show. Today's guest is going to be Joellyn Beckham, founder of brightbluedot.com. And that first dot is spelled out, and then the second dot is just a dot. But she's our guest today, and she's going to talk to us about the billboards you may have seen around town pop up. They move around. Sometimes they're in one part of town, sometimes they're in another part of town, but they're bringing to the forefront people that are drivers and driving things to think about, which may be a message that they're not hearing at home, but they are based in truth. We hope you enjoy this show. Hello, Joellyn. How are you doing?
Hey, well, Tommy, how are you?
I'm doing great. Joellyn is with brightbluedot.com. Actually, I think Joellyn is the founder. Is that an accurate statement?
Yeah, that's pretty accurate.
Can you kind of recite for us the history? Because I know it's been around longer than people realize, but recently gotten a lot of attention because it's the mechanism behind the posting of billboards that are bringing to the public's attention some of the things that are going on in our administration in D.C. that perhaps they're not aware of or not paying enough attention to. But if you don't mind, take us through the history of Bright Blue Dot.
Sure. It was started at the beginning of George W. Bush's second term. I don't know if y'all remember that around here, Birmingham, people had these square bumper stickers that were black that had this really pretty W. It just said W, and underneath it said the president.
I have one now in my office.
I bet you do.
And it says...
Do you use it for a dartboard?
No, it says F, the president.
The president. Yeah. That was an iteration that came. And I wish I'd thought of that. But it was a great way for those guys.
No. I digress. He made a face when I said that, but I couldn't help it. Basically, that's what where you are now is what I just said sort of equates to. So anyway, yeah, I'll leave it at that. Go ahead with your historical review of Blue Dot.
I think it's historical is horrifying, but yeah. And every year I thought this will be the end. We'll be fine after this, but no. So that was I think I got a few printed in December. There was no real thing as any kind of internet commerce. But we got a website put up real quickly. A woman I was working with at the time, she got somebody to put up a website, and then we printed these stickers, and they were paper, but because that's all we could get, and we needed them in a rush sort of way. And we took them to the Al Franken event that happened down at Alice Stevens. And it was a gloomy, frigidly cold for Birmingham night. And we stood out in the parking lot and just handed them to people to see if they were interested. People were in such foul moods and so sad. But then you would hear somebody a few steps later and they would just die laughing. And they come back and go, could I get a couple more of those? So anyway, it started there and kind of went from there. And, it's been 20 years, which is horrifying.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hey, I agree with you. I can't believe I've been a lawyer for 47 years. Let's talk about horrifying. Yeah, let's move along with Bright Blue Dot. I did notice that the name changed along the way, or the spelling of the word. Sometimes it's Bright, and sometimes it's Brite.
Well, we couldn't get the rights to Bright, so we've got the redneck spelling of bright, Brite.
Okay, it works. Phonetically proper.
Yeah. I hate it. Can't be the correct thing. Maybe someday.
So you moved from the Blue Dot and you just morphed into where it is now?
Well, we had, it was really popular here in Alabama, and then it kind of spread, and it was always shocking. I mean, it went all over the country pretty quickly, but then it started concentrating in certain other red states, and different years would have different states that would be coming to the fold. But my background is in creative. I was a creative director in consumer marketing at Southern Progress, which used to publish these things that were called magazines.
Yes.
You may have heard of. Anyway,
like newspapers.
they kind of like those, yeah. And anyway, so I have done some things that have kind of sprung from people finding out about the Blue Dot. I've worked on a campaign with some women in Maine in the midterms that we did so well in. What was that? 18?
18.
Yeah. And we felt like that we identified districts, congressional districts that were supposedly toss up. And we went into those districts, we raised money, and we had a little campaign going after young women, particularly college age women, co-eds. And we talked about not abortion, which was the hot topic, but we talked about birth control because at that time they'd already had a vote and the Republicans had squashed it. That there would be no federal uh, guarantee to birth control, to access to birth control, and that went really well. I did some TV little, I call them TV spots. There were videos. We put them all over social media. We bought that. We did some printed material and distributed it at the Georgia Tech game. That anyway. So we've done some other things. I've done some other things that the Dot has kind of provided a launching pad for. So yeah. So now I'm doing billboards, and it's all for Birmingham right now. Although I've had some people I've helped with some of the efforts in Virginia and Tennessee and some more rural parts of Alabama.
Mm-hmm. And the idea behind the billboards, which are funded by donations, I understand, correct?
Yeah.
And of course, if you'd like to talk about how somebody could donate if they were inclined to, how would they do that?
I would love to talk about that. But let me just tell you, the idea behind the billboards is this, and this has kind of been, how can I put this? A lot of people I know, and some of our sweet, sweet neighbors, and some of my family, and um, they just don't get the same news we do, and we all know that, and we each are in our bubbles. But it's not just that they get different takes; they do, but they also just don't get the same information. Period. If you watch, CNN or MSNBC or mainstream media, you'll find out that there's something going on that's horrifying or that's of national import. And then you turn on Fox and they're just not covering it. They're talking about, some woman getting raped by an immigrant in Georgia. And so, that they or something historic from Hillary Clinton, they just are not covering the same story. So the thought was, if you mention this to these people, if you have a headline, if you tell them something, first of all, they go, I've never heard that. And you go, yeah, this is a main headline that's going on right now. And they say again, I've not heard that. So you have to show them what's out there before they believe you. So the thought behind the billboards was, how can we have a conversation with people if they don't even believe the same subjects, not even, again, the take of right versus left on certain topics, but the fact that this news is real. And so the outdoor companies we've worked with, they have been difficult at times, but they make me provide them with backup for everything I'm claiming or every story I'm putting out. I have to give them a headline or a link to a what they call legitimate news source that tells them that what we're putting up on the board is legit and real and correct. So that's one thing I hope people take away from this. I'm not sure. I don't get that word out every time we post something, but that is the truth. And so what happens is a lot of these people listen to me. God, I sound horrible. But there was a board we did, uh, what, 3 or 4 months ago about Epstein and Trump.
Right.
And at the time, the right was saying, parroting what Trump said, which is, I don't know the guy, not a friend of mine, don't know him. Well, on the billboard, we published a picture of Trump with Epstein, whispering in his ear, clearly an intimate friend, not somebody, you know. And so that was the first thing was to go to people, look, here they are. They're friends. They're whispering to each other. So that was the first goal on that one was to get that out there and confirmed. And I think we were successful with that. But the other thing, if you have to have it where, and in marketing, you do have to identify who you're trying to reach. And I would say it started off to try to reach people who were Republican and with whom we thought we could have a wedge issue or something to enlighten them about. It has since, I think, become really like the blue dot is, a rallying cry for a lot of people on the left or on the Democratic side who feel completely alone and voiceless. And so when they see, I mean, we've had so many people say, I'm going to drive and see this. I don't believe this is up this billboard. And we've had people say, I almost wrecked the car because I couldn't believe this was up. And I had to get off at the nearest exit and circle back around. I mean, those stories come up and people are so, it just almost chokes me up. People are so grateful that there's someone speaking for them and speaking what's on their minds and speaking not just their truth, but what those of us believe is the real truth.
Which
So
happens to be the name of our show, The Real
that's
Truth.
right. There you go. It's perfect.
So we're, you use the expression these people, and I understand you call it yourself, and we're not trying to malign anyone because they are a representative of part of our country, almost 75 million plus.
Right.
And I've wondered why we see things, we being, and I'm not ultra left or Antifa as we are described sometimes, but I would lean left, but I'm conservative in some aspects of my life, primarily financial to some degree. But I did grow up in the 60s and the early 70s when the Vietnam War was the rallying cry for my generation. And I feel like the generation that I created is not rising up to the occasion like we did back in the 60s and 70s over the Vietnam War.
Right.
This is just my thought. These 75 plus million that seem to think their leader does no wrong are really and truly firmly entrenched and relate to that person. And I think many of those people that feel that way, and I'm hoping we can make a difference to some degree in getting them to wake up and see that perhaps all that glitters literally is not gold. Right. And that, but at the same time, he being our president gives validation to those people that feel that way. And it's okay to feel that way. But we also have our right to feel the way we feel. And right now, nobody's talking to each other, and we're sort of being, what do they call it? The dog wagging the tail.
Wagging the dog. Wagging.
The other,
Oh, what is it? Oh, it's the name of that movie. Wagging the dog.
yeah.
Wagging the dog. Yeah.
So anything goes. I mean,
Right.
for example, what's going on with the White House right now?
Right.
Literally
Right.
wrecking ball to it. I mean,
Right.
to me, that's offensive only because it's such a historical structure.
Right.
I get it. He wants a ballroom, and that's okay. Get your ballroom. But, can't we add it on, or the Rose Garden? I mean,
Right.
it just makes me sick in my stomach to think about things like that. So,
Sure.
are you getting feedback when you put up a billboard? There's no way to talk to it. So, are you getting feedback from some source?
Yes, absolutely. I post these on social media and to my our blue dot crowd, which is, I don't say how many, but it's a fair amount. Um, but we also post it on Reddit, which is a much broader net. Reddit, and I only do it right now in Birmingham and a couple others. I don't know Reddit that well. This is my first foray into that, but that is a much more broad swath of the population. You have a lot of people who are conservative on that, and a lot of people who say inappropriate and mean things. And I've had people reach out to me and say that to me on the website because they'll send me a message, and it's kind of freaky. But the conversation, it at least allows for decent conversation. There are, of course, the people who take a punch at each other, and that's just that's the nature of social media. But there will also be somebody who will have a legitimate question and say, "I thought blah blah blah," and then you come back and you say, "Well, you can do it one of two ways. You can say, 'Can you tell me where you got that information?' And then you can say, well, I don't really consider that a legitimate source of information, or however you need to address it. Or if they make a good point, say, you make a good point. But the thing that it allows us to do is come in and put up backup information like we are providing to the outdoor company that supports exactly what we're saying. So, again, being if we were just being if we were just poking the bear, that's one thing. But if we poke the bear, we try to have it poked with a legitimate reason behind it. And you have to, in advertising, get people's attention. So sometimes things are a little jarring that people see because you want to there are a lot of outdoor boards, and our friend, Mr. Shannara, has a lot of them, and there's a lot of clutter. And I don't mean they're clutter, but there are just tons of people getting their message out with outdoor. And the reason that this has become a popular medium for politics is because, first of all, it used to be that Facebook was the number one way to advertise to reach people on social media, and the age of the Facebook user has gotten much older. You can also do it on Instagram, and of course, I don't do Twitter or whatever it is now, X. But when you put those out there, at some point, the medium will correct its algorithm, so it's only showing your message to the people who agree with it. We've talked about. I think it's pretty common knowledge that if you're a Republican and you've liked a lot of things or had things to say about this, that, and the other, you're going to get feed. Your feed is going to be filled with people who are trying to reach people like you. So an outdoor board is completely, if you will, democratic. If you are driving by, you are not anybody but the driver. And so you can try not to look at it, but if it's compelling enough for you to look at, you look at it. And so in that way, we are reaching people who cannot be reached in almost any other way. It's the same thing now with broadcast television. If you buy on a certain channel or station, there are certain people who watch certain shows, and it seems to all now be divided into political groups. Well, again, everybody drives the same roads. So the goal is to get a message up that is true and that is pointed and that drives conversation. And so, in that regard, we are successful. And I do, to answer your question, I have heard from several people. I try to collect some of the statements that we get, some of the comments that are made, because they just almost make me cry. But we've had a couple of people who say, I'm a former Republican. I am horrified by what's going on, and I want to make a contribution to help get this word out to friends and fun. And it's like, wow. So, does it happen every day, all day? No. But when it does happen, it's just the best feeling in the world that you've actually had a constructive encounter with somebody and they've listened.
Well, isn't that really all we're trying to do is
Yeah.
engage
Right.
in discourse and in dialogue,
Right.
which, I mean, you can feel the way you feel and firmly believe in it, and that's okay. But allow someone else to feel differently and
Right.
be able to dialogue about it without violence, and without, I used to, you had these bumper stickers I see, make America great again. And I had one go through my head about make America Great Britain again. Then I thought about that. Well, that's not a great idea either. But, but what I am told, and my dear friend Joyce Vance has a podcast or a Substack. I don't know what it's called exactly, but it's
both.
It's called Civil Discourse. And when I talked to Doug Jones in my first episode, what he enlightened us about, being formerly in the fray, was that nowadays there's no dialogue even amongst the respective parties. Not only are they not talking to each other, but they're not talking to themselves within their own groups, which really opens the door. And I guess it's motivated by fear of retaliation. So I'm just not sure if we're getting a message out. People need to understand we're not really trying to pick a fight. We're just trying to say this is another way of looking at this.
Right. Exactly. And that's exactly, or here's some facts for you to consider that you might not have even known existed in order to be able to consider them. So, I mean, I think what Joyce is doing is great. I mean, it's fabulous. I mean, she explains things so beautifully, especially from a legal standpoint, and that's kind of where mired down in so much legal stuff right now that people just don't understand. And so, anyway, this is also therapy for me. I'll be the first person to say that. If something happens that I'm just beside myself about, the first thing I want to do is tell people. And so, kind of, can you believe this? But you have to be careful how you couch it. And anyway, it's just another way of trying to do the same thing that we're all trying to do, which is have a constructive, enlightening conversation, and people make their own judgments from there. But right now, we are so tribal in our little groups, our bubbles, that we won't allow any other information in. And we've got to stop that. We've got to be on both sides. We've got to stop it. And you go back to, you said you're not a far left. Well, I'm not far left. I used to be a Republican. I used to be, don't tell anybody, but I was a young Republican in Birmingham. And so my family were very conservative. Would they be at home in MAGA? Absolutely not. But I had a lot of respect for, their thoughts, and I still do. But I'm not a far left person. There's so much right now that is going on that is not left or right. This is just not, I'm not coining this for myself, but it's right or wrong. I mean, you and I talked earlier about the rule of law, and it's basically that is what separates the United States from so many other countries, so many other democracies and other countries. And if we blow that off, which is happening every moment of every day, we are not going to be here much longer in the form that we're in. And so, I don't think of what we're doing as being left. And left to me is, I love Bernie, but Bernie is left. And, I
You
mean,
know,
I got what he's saying. I do. And I agree with a lot of it. That's not my first goal is to get people worked up about.
yeah, which I
Yeah.
think is the misconception
Yeah.
of a lot of those people, as we said, and we're not
Yeah.
trying to pin a moniker on them that's
Right.
disrespectful. We're asking that we be as respected as they want to be respected. Just listen to what we're saying and make a choice that's informed. It doesn't have to be capitulation or Armageddon. I mean, there's
Right.
some middle ground there.
Right.
I was troubled by early on in this administration some of the larger law firms that capitulated to the threat
Yeah.
by donating a bunch of hours instead of losing their business. And those are
Right.
big law firms. And
Yeah.
I'm not a big law firm. The people I work with are like me. We're generally speaking criminal defense lawyers, small
Right.
practitioners. We operate in the moment.
Right.
There's no such thing as a deposition. I hardly know what a witness is going to say until they say it from the witness stand. So when I get asked, what are you going to say? I typically answer, I don't know what I'm going to say until they say what they say. So
Right.
we're in the same boat with what you're doing. We have to react to what we're hearing and seeing and bring it to the driver's attention and give them something to think about on the ride home. It may not make a
Right.
difference, and it's okay if it doesn't make a difference. But we need to be aware, just more aware, and maybe get out of that bubble
Right.
that you're referring to.
And I don't think that people will ride by one of our billboards and have a complete aha moment. They're going to have to research it. Hopefully, if nothing else, it piques curiosity, and they have to go home and Google what we've said, and then find out if it's true or not, or what they think about it. So yeah, I mean, you have to have your expectations, and your expectations have to be real. But I believe that, as somebody who's been in advertising all my career and marketing, you have to believe it works. And one of the things that some of the people on the Democratic side, some of the people who are um, advising political candidates, they'll say, the Republicans have had a marketing platform forever. They are marketing to us every day, and they are either with a policy. They're forcing us to have conversations. They're forcing us to listen to what they say and why they're saying it. And what happens with Democrats, I'm afraid, especially locally, is we don't say anything until about, I don't know, 4 to 6 weeks before the election. And then we throw stuff out there and say, this candidate is a wholesome, person. And it just doesn't, it's not a combination for winning over people. So I wish, if anything, I wish the Democratic Party at whatever level would spend more money with messaging. We know it works because it's worked for Republicans. So, and just I have to say this too. I saw you were talking about making America great again, and I have a couple of bumper stickers that are two of my most popular. One says "Make stupid embarrassing again," I'm sorry about that. And the other one says, "Make America America again."
Oh yeah, I saw that one. I saw that
Yeah.
one.
So those are pretty popular.
Well, I know from traveling that people outside of this country who used to hold this country in tremendous esteem, and we're still we are the most powerful country in the world, I think. But they're afraid of what's happening here. They view what's happening here probably worse than we do ourselves. And I think they've lost respect for the United States based on the way some of the things have been handled. We don't feel it right here in Birmingham so much, but at least nationally, I think the message that people are receiving about the United States is not positive. And the little pockets of attacks that are occurring in Chicago or Portland or Los Angeles with the National Guard, it's just something I thought I would never see. And it's I told you, I think we talked about the boiling frog syndrome.
Yeah.
If you put a frog in hot water and it won't die, but if you continue to turn up the heat, it ultimately will. And I feel the same thing is happening with our rights. You chip away at freedom of speech, and before you know it, you lose another right behind it. I went back and reread the Declaration of Independence and was quite frankly surprised at how little had changed since 1776. Some of the words that are used are identical to some of the problems. I mean, they use the word hither a lot, but we don't. But in terms of what they're speaking about, it's tariffs, it's immigration, it's taxes. And here we are, some almost 250 years later, and it looks like we're back where we started. Sometimes I feel that way. So I don't know what the future holds. What does your future hold with respect? Well, let me say this before we move along. Respect for the rule of law, which has been the common theme of my first few episodes, has to come out of our judiciary and our judicial branch. I am hopeful that it's not as politicized as it appears to be. I don't feel it when I go to court, but I'm not going to court in matters where I do see it being weaponized in our judicial branch, like the prosecution of Comey and Bolton, for example. I mean, it's clearly retaliation.
Absolutely. When you've got tariffs levied against one of your oldest, most steadfast allies, Canada, because they said something that hurt his feelings, or they put out an ad that hurt his feelings. Welcome to politics, baby. And he's one of the worst. But I mean, that is just, our longest and best allies have always been England and Australia, Canada. And I think he's making enemies in Australia and Canada. And I don't know about England. I don't know what their story is right now, but I mean, it's just kind of unbelievable. And we need to kind of wake up. At some point, you don't have friends, and you cannot be a powerful country if you don't have allies.
Well, we've alienated the United Nations to some degree, it seems.
Yeah.
And it looks like the Europeans are stepping up the pace in terms of democracy protection, for lack of a better word. I'm just hoping the judicial branch remains intact because we are the ultimate arbiter of the disputes between the other two branches, the executive branch and the legislative branch. It's just frightening to me. I intend to have future guests. I've been reached out to by one sitting federal judge at an appellate level, and I hope that he follows through on his promise to come visit with me in December. And I've got another couple of ideas about maybe a retired judge that I think will shed some light on the state of the judiciary that I'm very respectful of. And when I say that, I'm talking primarily about the federal judiciary. They're Article 3 judges that are lifetime appointments, so they don't really have anything to lose by going against the grain. It's not like they're not going to be elected. They're lifetime. They're there. They can't. That's why it was made that way. And the same is true with our Constitution. You know, it was created to be amended, and it has been amended, although it hasn't been amended, I think, since the 70s was the last amendment.
That sounds right.
But I'm anticipating there to be some change as we move forward. Perhaps we'll see how our Supreme Court reacts to what's on their calendar, which just started. So we'll see what comes out. What's the plan? Well, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. No, I was just going to say on the Supreme Court, I mean, it's sad when your biggest fear is that if you ever have to have a case that goes before the Supreme Court, you know, you're going to get the least fair decision that you can get at any other level of the court system. It seems I've been so disappointed in Roberts. He just has proven himself to be not at all what we thought he would be. So anyway, that's all.
Well, he'll get another chance, I'm sure, to maybe go backwards or go forwards, depending on how you look at it. So what are the plans for Bright Blue Dot in the future? My voice is starting to crack.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I'm sure you're tired. You're doing a lot of talking, Tommy.
I do. I've been talking since about 7:00 this morning anyway.
Oh, Lord.
It's okay.
All right. Well,
I'm drinking my throat coat as we speak.
Yeah, me too. That makes two of us. I'm as far as what goes, you know, what's on tap for me, the main thing is I got to keep getting those dots out there, because I still believe in the power of that, as small and insignificant as that may seem. You know, when you hear stories of people who feel completely isolated in some little tiny town, I can't even remember the names of some of these towns. I've had somebody say, I don't know anybody. I think I'm the only Democrat in any county where, you know, within 5 counties. And they said, but I was out going to Wendy's or something one night, and I saw several of these stickers in the parking lot, and I thought I knew what they meant. And I went into the restaurant and I asked them, and they said, oh yeah, we're all Democrats. Have a seat. And it was like they had finally come home. And honestly, it is just so sad to me when people can't find. They love their town, they love their neighbors, they love their churches, their synagogues, they love all of that, but they cannot find the people with whom they find a home politically or ideologically. And so that just means the world to be able to connect people and have them feel like they can reach out to somebody some way and find each other. Be just honking, it's another one in traffic or on the road. So that, as much as I wish I could hang up my hat on that, honestly, because it is exhausting. It's a lot of tedious paperwork and shipping out and inventory and stuff that is not my strong suit, but I do it and hope that people don't kill me because their orders are late. So I wish that we would reach some kind of place where people didn't feel that they had to hide or hide who they are as far as being a Democrat. And so if there was ever that point reached, I would certainly hang up my spurs on that. But I don't anticipate that. But I'm also not getting any younger, so I got to figure that out. But as far as the outdoor boards and that those kind of efforts go, I'm old enough to have done a lot of different types of marketing. I hadn't done as much outdoor as I'm doing now. I've done, spots and that are on, little video spots and radio spots and that kind of thing. And so if I can do any of that between now and the midterms, I want to do it. And the outdoor boards, if I can get the funding that is needed, and here the thing is not cheap, and it's not a one-time donation, unfortunately, and people are finding that out. But here we are. We started this in February, and it's the end of October, and people are still giving. Thank God, because if people stop, then I have to stop. If we can't afford to post, I mean, everything I'm doing is for free. But if we can't post these, then it's pointless. So I'm just praying that the dollars continue to come in, or there are peaks and valleys with that. But I feel like if I felt like they weren't making a difference, I wouldn't care. But I do feel like they're making a difference, and so I really want to keep it up between now and next November, another year. So I don't know if that's possible or plausible, but that's a goal.
I'm going to ask you about the donate piece. But I want to say one thing before we go there and close out with that. I feel a lot of apathy in our universe, and just getting people to show up to vote, whatever they vote, just show up.
Right.
And I feel a lot of helplessness, a feeling of helplessness and hopelessness, which we have to shake. We can't give up. We have to keep communicating, whether you like it or not. Feel free to disagree, but disagree respectfully. And that's the point that I hope comes away from this program, is that there are always at least two sides to a story. But wake up and smell the roses and look at what's really going on here and be mindful of that boiling frog syndrome, or before you know it, we will be Great Britain again. I think Great Britain did some fluff for the president in an effort, because they did put on Dog and Pony Show pretty good.
Yeah.
I think that was about, at least my British friends tell me, about keeping a lid on the tariffs. And but I don't know. Who knows? I'm not in a position to know that. But the scuttle I hear from the locals that say that's what that was about. They couldn't possibly agree with some of the things that he has done that has affected them in one way or the other. So if a citizen wants to keep the billboards alive that's listening to us, how do they go about funding your cause?
Can I say one more thing about what you're saying, just real quickly?
Yeah, take your time.
The last election, the last presidential election, was not lost for Democrats because we had really been beaten at the polls. It was beaten because people didn't show up. To your point of apathy, they're just done with it. They're sick of it. They say one party doesn't make a difference over the other. Well, I don't agree with that. And so my goal is not to get everybody out to the polls. My goal is to get Democrats out to the polls. And so the thing I did direct marketing, and that is a thing that's kind of like the dodo bird, but it basically means that your advertising gets somebody to act. It's anything with an 800 number or a website, but just to act. And a lot of times we encourage people to call their representatives when they see one of our sides. But the other thing, and the most important thing, is to get them to vote. And you can't get people to vote and get up off the chair, get out of their lazy boys, and turn off the football game or turn off Fox if you don't get them to feel something. And the Republicans have for years done a fabulous job, say what you will, about getting their supporters angry enough to get up and get out. And so we have to do that. And so, the goal of this is not only to enlighten people on both sides, but to also make people feel that things are going on that they could actually affect the outcome of. So that's all my preaching on that. As far as donations go, I'm taking donations through the Bright Blue Dot website, which is the redneck spelling of bright, BRITE blue.com. If you go there, you hit the shop page, and one of the first things you'll see, one of the probably top 3 or 4 items will be donating to the Good Trouble billboards.
Mhm.
And
Big
you
trouble.
can donate. Yeah, the big is Good Trouble billboards. Yeah, and you can donate, from $25 on up. And to any of your listeners who might have deeper pockets, if you give $325, that buys us one day on a board in Birmingham at a really good location. And if you donate 2,500, you bought us a week.
Wow.
So yeah,
Well,
that's
I see you've got one right outside my office door here, which
yeah,
is right off of the Red Mountain Expressway. So,
yeah.
Joelle,
What does it say, Tommy?
huh?
What does it say?
I can't see it from here.
Oh no!
I'm looking at the back of it. It had your message up there about the wrecking
It's
ball.
still
About the Queen. The Queen.
It was not the Queen; it was the King, and that was the last thing I needed was somebody thinking I was trying to put him in women's clothing on top of everything else I was saying. So I had to make sure that AL.com knew that that was actually him dressed as Louis the 16th and not as Marie Antoinette. It's the details, that'll kill you.
Joellyn, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
This is The Real Truth, and I think you've just given us some of it.
Thank you.
We look forward to talking to you again in the future.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining me today on The Real Truth. My name is Tommy Spina. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation. I hope you will follow or subscribe to my podcast and listen in to the next episode. If you found it valuable, please take a moment to rate it and review it. It helps us to reach more listeners that care about the issues that matter. Share it with a friend. Stay engaged and remember, the truth matters. I'll see you next time.